Dreams are interesting. A strange, surreal amalgamation of whatever's going on in your subconscious mind. There's something I find endlessly fascinating. Almost everyone has them, but why we dream is mostly a mystery. It's theorized that it helps us consolidate memories, but we don't actually know for sure. It's no wonder dream sequences are so common in media. It's a direct window into a character's psyche and a way to show us their fears, desires, memories, and trauma through a vague lens that the viewer is left to interpret. But what if something told its story exclusively through dream sequences? Released in 2004, Yume Nikki takes place predominantly inside dreams. You only ever see two rooms in the waking world, the bedroom and the balcony. But go to sleep and you get to explore this vast mindscape of dreams and nightmares. There's zero dialogue, so the player is left to view the imagery and events in the game as representations of the protagonist, Madotsuki's, memories. All we know about her is that she won't leave her room, and her bizarre and sometimes disturbing dreams are the only ways we might understand what led to her isolation. But this video isn't about Yume Nikki, rather something inspired by the long legacy it left behind. There have been hundreds, probably thousands of games influenced by Yume Nikki, both in minor and major ways. And today I want to look at one of those games. Dreamworld is bizarre. Dreamworld is beautiful. Dreamworld is... well, it's a game made on Roblox. If you didn't know that before getting here, we gotta get this out of the way first. Yes, this platform is a nightmarish hellscape that I can't escape, and I hate the company behind it, and the vast majority of the content hosted on here is complete garbage. However, if you're willing to look below its surface, you can find all kinds of unique and interesting games made by extremely talented people who have genuine passion for what they create. Dreamworld is one of those games. I've actually talked about it a few years back, and I don't think I did a very good job, so I've always wanted to revisit it, and now that the finale update has released, I can finally do the deep dive into it I've been wanting to. Dreamworld opens to more than just a bedroom. You've got a whole apartment. It's very nicely detailed. You've got stuff like a TV with changeable channels, and there's also functional light switches, which automatically makes the game like twice as good. In the bedroom, you'll see a corkboard that fills up with more pictures as you see more of the game. I remember way back you could interact with the diary and it would give you this cool little tutorial screen, but they removed that a while ago and I'm not really sure why. Maybe they thought it was a bit too video gamey, or maybe they thought it was redundant because you have instructions in the main menu too. I love a lot of the changing details in the home, like multiple times of day when you wake up, or subtle changes to things like food being prepared in the kitchen. It really makes it feel like someone lives here. Something I didn't even notice until editing is that the calendar changes pictures based on what real-world month it is. I started recording in October, then through November it changed, and now in December it looks like this. As with many of these games, you play as a hikikomori and can't leave the house, meaning the only thing left to do is go to sleep. After sleeping, you're taken to a dream version of the apartment, where the once closed door now leads to a nexus with 7 more doors that take you deeper into the dream. It's the classic Yume Nikki formula, searching a sprawling web of dreams to collect effects and see events. There's 58 dream worlds total, including the Nexus, which I think is a good amount. It's a lot, but it's not overwhelming or anything. Something I can appreciate is Dreamworld's tone. I kind of struggle to find the words to describe the atmosphere, but it's very similar to Yume Nikki's. It's usually dark and foreboding, with an unsettling and oppressive feeling, but in the same way it's strangely, comforting? Nostalgic maybe? It's hard for me to explain, but I've always found something beautiful in the unnerving worlds of horror games. There's a strange warmth in these cold environments, and I can't really find the words to describe it. A lot of the more grounded worlds are dying places in a state of decay, a messy museum, flooding apartments, or docks that have seen better days. Many of Dreamworld's locations are in disrepair, and I find myself more drawn to these settings. A personal favorite of mine are these car parks. When I first came into this world, there's a constant noise. It kinda sounded like static to me, so I tried using the radio, but that didn't do anything out of the ordinary. Then after looking over the ledge, I realized we were in the middle of a rushing black ocean, completely disconnected from any nearby land. There's a constant aura of loneliness to Dreamworld. NPCs populate its worlds, but they rarely ever interact with the player, and usually if you can, it's not very welcoming. Very occasionally, NPCs will have dialogue, but it's usually brief and you can't respond. You always feel disconnected from the world and never feel like you belong. It's not all rundown buildings though. There's a lot of surreal and unexplainable worlds, like a village at the bottom of an ocean trench, a red graveyard in the snow, or a grid of statues shrouded in fog as a siren blares in the distance. Dreamworld definitely leans more into the horror side of these fan games. It's not always trying to be scary, but it does have a lot of unsettling imagery and a few chaser enemies. I would probably say it lands somewhere between Yumeniki and Dotflow in terms of how scary it can be. If you're someone who's very prone to horror, maybe try it out with some friends. As it's a Roblox game, it has built-in multiplayer support, so you can explore these dreams with other people. I think it's pretty cool, and the multiplayer aspect is definitely one of the benefits of using this platform. But I do wish there was a way to turn it off. I like the option for online, but I think it can clash with the lonely and isolated feeling that the game is so delicately crafted. I love Dreamworld's atmosphere, but it can totally get shattered when I run into Bardock. Another issue is that your avatar is forced into R15 animations, which is fine. I'm a bit of an R6 purist, but I can live with it. My problem is that some effects will clip into your head while using the default animations, and it was really bothering me, so I actually went out of my way and bought a different animation pack for this video. Dreamworld definitely wears its inspirations on its sleeve. A few worlds have pretty heavy influence from other games, such as the White Desert and Mura World from Yumeniki, Cardboard World and Realistic Beach from Tuki, and even the apartment is based on the one seen in Devotion. These worlds aren't direct recreations, rather they just take very strong visual inspiration from their influences. I'm pretty mixed on these. On one hand, it's cool to see another artist's take on these familiar locations, but on the other hand, they do feel very derivative. I'm okay with them overall. It's interesting to explore these ideas in a 3D space, and there's only a handful of them, so it's pretty easy to look past. Across the many dreams, your goal is to collect all 21 effects. These are simply found by exploration, none are locked behind puzzles or collectibles. In fact, I think you can actually finish this game without triggering any events. There's a lot of the usual suspects, like a speed effect, light effect, and a kill effect. Speed effect is pretty easy to come by. Just go through the white door, enter a hole in the 4th house, go through this stone archway, then go up the stairs in the subway and talk to the ticket seller. Super handy for getting around the worlds faster, though I'm not a huge fan of how it replaces your entire head. This is just a personal preference that goes for almost every Yumeniki fan game, but I prefer when the speed effect is something that's equipped rather than something that transforms your character. A vast majority of effects are completely cosmetic, with some fun gimmicks like a radio that tunes to different stations, a TV that puts filters over your screen, or a canvas that might have unique drawings in certain dreams. I especially like the magnifying glass that reveals hidden murals, characters, and other things that you couldn't see before. Like ghosts coming out of the body bags in the docks, which only makes it creepier when you realize not every bag has them. Have their spirits moved on, or is the person inside still alive? This part in the carnival has always been kinda weird to me though. There's this area you can't reach with a doorway, and there's this glass wall that you can't get through, but I can see a doorway through it. I remember thinking of this place when I got the crow effect, which lets you jump higher. I thought, great, now I can get to that doorway. So I went back to the window, but you can't. There's an invisible wall blocking you. I can reach that ledge now though, and through that door is the room on the other side of the window. I wonder why you can't jump this wall. Both paths would be gated behind the same effect, and I think jumping over the window is more intuitive if anything. Invisible walls are something that's going to come up when designing any 3D game, but I think in the best case scenario the player won't have to interact with them much. There's times where they're necessary, like stopping the player from just walking out of the car park, but bumping into one is always a small hit to immersion, and trying to avoid it when possible can make your game feel a lot more polished. Also, while I'm on about polish, this is something I didn't plan to bring up originally, but let's talk about it anyway. Games will hide things out of bounds all the time, like rooms the player gets teleported to or assets the game will use later. You're not actually going inside this house, you're getting teleported to a little box in the void that looks like the inside of a house, which is completely normal and totally fine. But there's a couple spots in Dreamworld where they don't do a great job of hiding this stuff. Like sometimes you can just see it. This is a pretty minor nitpick and it could get changed, but seeing out of bounds assets through windows just pulls you out of the experience right away. Okay, back to talking about the wall. This window could either just be a little bit taller if you didn't want people to try jumping it, or there could just be no invisible wall at all since jumping it doesn't change progression at all. You don't even need Crow to get here, you could always just take another route. Dreamworld is extremely interconnected, which is something I'm always glad to see. This game feels like a vast web of worlds that's easy to lose yourself in, each door giving you a different starting place in this labyrinth of the mind without ever feeling too far from each other. Across the many dreams, you're bound to eventually run into a vending machine, so why not stop and buy a snack? These are the secondary collectible after effects. Each vending machine will dispense different snacks based on what world you're in, like a donut, juice, human brain, Bronson extract, Adelheid, Cometrine. I hope this reference lands for more than like 5 people watching. Vending machines require coins though, so how do you get money? Simple. Murder. You can find a voodoo doll in the school, and killing NPCs with it sometimes drops coins. This is your only way to get money for the machines, so you'll probably look for a world with lots of creatures to farm the currency. Oh, that's weird. Well, the other ones do it too. What if I... Oh. This is one of Dreamworld's many events, little occurrences that can happen either by random chance or doing something specific to trigger them. These are some of my favorite parts of any Yumeniki fan game because they often lead to some of the most memorable and iconic moments. Times when the game either responds in a way you didn't expect or otherwise surprises you are always interesting to me. Take for example whatever's under this blanket splatting when you jump on it too much, or finding this hidden room with a bunch of cat dudes having a picnic. Another interesting one is this one singular NPC in the meat world that won't die when you hit it with the doll, instead turning blue and teleporting you to a locked room in the apartment where more blue creatures surround you. Using the magnifying glass here will reveal some more NPCs too. There's another one in the grass maze where you can find this girl having a picnic, and interacting with her will make her smile wider and wider with this awful paper tearing sound every time until you get transported to an underwater room where you're trapped forever. Obvious reference to Yumeniki too. Before going any further, I'm going to tell you to play this game first. I'm about to go into things like endings and other big spoilers, so if you haven't played Dreamworld before, I highly recommend it, and it's also free, so there's nothing stopping you. Explore it for yourself. There's a lot to see that I haven't talked about, and I don't want to take the experience of discovering these worlds for the first time away from you. I'd say go for as long as you can without using the wiki, but inevitably you're going to need to use it at some point, especially if you want all the vending machine items. Alright, without further ado, we're going into spoiler territory. Something I have to clear up is who you are, since it isn't exactly clear. You play as your Roblox avatar in the dream, and in reality you're forced into first person, so you can never see yourself. However, we can still infer that Dreamworld's protagonist is a girl named Anatsuki. She appears in a lot of different dreams, sometimes as a child, sometimes a bit older. She can also appear in the menus, sometimes replacing your profile, and I know I probably shouldn't bring up external material, but there's a collaboration with a game called Regretivator that directly shows Anatsuki sitting in the bedroom, so it's pretty clear that this is our protagonist. In the school, you can find her standing in a cluttered classroom looking at a voodoo doll, the effect used for killing NPCs. Using Magnify here will show a ghostly image of her older self looking horrified as if she's seeing a memory she'd rather forget. In the next room you'll find a single desk with another child standing in the corner, always looking away from the camera. In the third classroom there's a bunch of other students who all look like this. It really caught me off guard the first time, since the world uses the first two rooms to establish the art style here, then completely flips it on its head when you enter this room. Perhaps they all look like this to represent Anatsuki's lack of connection with them. These are just nameless classmates in her memory, and it makes that earlier character stand out as someone more important in her mind. Returning to that second room, if you use your newfound effect to kill the NPC, this happens. The older Anatsuki appears at the door, her face now red and distorted. When you return to the third classroom, the children stop talking and all stare at you. This may be the inciting incident that led to Anatsuki's isolation, a terrible tragedy and a feeling of ostracization leading to a complete withdrawal from society. This event awards the Friends Forever badge, which puts a picture of Anatsuki, her friend, and a third person on the corkboard. I believe the imagery of killing the friend represents a feeling of responsibility for the death of someone close to her. I don't think she directly caused the death of her friend, but she probably feels at least partially guilty. Whatever happened, it still clearly haunts her. After collecting all 21 effects, you can wake up to access the first ending, One Way Up. The apartment will seem normal until you walk out to the balcony where there's now a set of steps. Interacting with them cuts to you falling, passing by many effects and NPCs from the dream, an obvious homage to Ending 3 from Yumetuki. We then fall out of frame and see Anatsuki standing next to a hospital bed, looking out the window as the heart rate monitor flatlines. She then fades away. The badge for this adds a photo of Anatsuki sitting on a bed looking solemnly out a window. The second ending, Apology, requires you to wake up to the Flesh Bedroom event. I actually really like this event, it's super creepy. The house itself is made out of meat that squelches under each footstep, the sky is a deep red, there's a constant heartbeat as if the building itself is alive, and you can hear scratching and wailing behind the front door. If you've met the ending requirements, which is collecting all effects and having killed over 100 NPCs, you'll be prompted to go outside. You'll come to a hallway with a bouquet of flowers in the middle and a single door at the end. After picking up the flowers and walking to the door, you'll turn and watch the lights go out before stepping inside to an empty funeral service. Walking closer, you'll see a memorial to the deceased, and the picture, it's of you. What? That's definitely an Natsuki in the photo. It's the same artwork as the one for the first effect badge. You light some incense and place the flowers next to the photo, then the credits roll. Truth is, I don't actually know how to interpret this ending. It's most likely that this isn't a literal event. We're attending our own funeral. This can't be reality. And the fact that you can only come here from the meat room event is also suspicious, since that's definitely not real. The only way this could make sense is if Natsuki was dead all along, and this is some kind of afterlife. I wouldn't rule that idea out completely, since one of the effects is a coffin that makes you unable to move, but it's more likely that this funeral is just another part of the dream. Even metaphorically though, I'm not sure what this could mean. Maybe she feels that with the death of her friend, part of herself died too, or maybe it's following up the first ending. This ending's badge adds a distorted sketch of a Natsuki on bloodied paper with sorry written on it in Mandarin. Maybe if she feels guilty for her friend's passing, she believes that her own death would be some kind of atonement, but this is definitely the ending I'm the least confident in my interpretation of. The third ending, Forgiveness, has requirements that are a little unclear at the moment, but I believe it requires all effects and all vending machine items to be collected, then you must wake up during one of two events. Sometimes upon waking up you'll catch a glimpse of a figure in the house before it vanishes. I've only ever seen the one in the hallway, but apparently one can appear on the couch too. The other event has the hallway covered in scribbled drawings, two of them resembling a Natsuki and her friend. If either of these occur, you can access ending 3. There's no steps on the balcony this time, instead you can leave through the front door. Upon leaving, you'll already have a vase of flowers in your hands, and down the hallway the door will open to a now crumbling and overgrown version of the school from your dream. It's clearly been abandoned for a long time. Walking down the hall, you can enter the classroom that your friend resided in, now being a memorial to them. Many have left flowers here, while the effects you've collected throughout the game are placed as offerings. They resemble more toys than what you find in the game, so perhaps they were this child's possessions? Placing the flowers on their desk, we see Natsuki doing a prayer as she reminisces about the childhood memories with them, finally having found peace with the loss of her friend. Then the credits roll. It's a nice, bittersweet ending to this beautiful game. But I can't help but ask myself, how much of this is real? I speculated that ending 2 was a dream because of the flesh apartment, but I can't ignore how reality itself is strange in Dreamworld. You can go to sleep, wake up, and objects in the house will have moved and changed. I assumed this was just a Natsuki living her life, making meals and such, but how can this happen when I've been asleep the whole time? Endings 1 and 3 have an odd quality to them too. The building you fall past in Ending 1 doesn't resemble the balcony you jump from. In fact, these windows don't look like any I've seen in the game. And why would there be a hallway directly connecting your apartment to the school in Ending 3? And why am I my avatar in Ending 1, but a Natsuki in Ending 3? None of this makes real, physical sense. But then in the midst of me losing my mind trying to piece together a coherent explanation for this, it hit me. Whether it's real or all a dream, or if this is some kind of afterlife, doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, this is a video game. It's a piece of art. Regardless of what's real and what's not, everything we see is open to interpretation anyway. Trying to define reality in a game like this is ultimately a pointless effort because Dreamworld isn't about putting together a complete story. It's about the emotions you feel while playing it. It's a game about loss, grief, guilt, and ultimately forgiveness. It's about coming to terms with things in your past and finding peace after a long grieving period. And it's one of my favorite Yumeniki fan games. I've kept my interpretations vague, really just spitballing ideas, because I want you to come to your own conclusions. As with all art, people will interpret it in different ways based on their life experiences, and that goes for more than just the story. Depending on who you are, Dreamworld could be a story with impactful themes, a fun little horror game, or just a cozy place to relax and take in the visuals. It's a game that wears its influences proudly while bringing enough of its own originality to feel distinctly unique. It's strange, surreal, and consistently intriguing. If you ignored the spoiler warning and haven't played the game, well, I'm disappointed, but I still hope you check out Dreamworld for yourself. It's definitely worth playing, and as I said before, it's also free. Take some time to get lost in this bizarre and beautiful world, and I'm sure you'll have a unique experience coming out of it. Thanks for watching, and Happy New Year.